The night was cold, and the streets were almost empty. The lights from the shops were fading one by one as people returned to their warm homes. But in the corner of an alley, under broken metal sheets, an alien woman sat shivering. Her skin carried marks of hunger and exile. Her clothes were torn, and her eyes were tired. She was once part of a proud people, but now she had nothing. No home, no family, no name that anyone cared to remember. She tried to hide herself whenever humans passed by. Most of them feared her, some hated her, and others just looked away as if she didn't exist. She had lived like this for months, counting each night as a curse. Her stomach growled, but she had no strength to move. She thought maybe this was the night she would close her eyes and never wake again. Then, the sound of small footsteps echoed in the street. At first, she thought it was just another passerby, but then a little human girl appeared, clutching a worn-out doll in her hand. The girl stopped when she saw the alien. Her big, curious eyes blinked, and instead of fear, there was only innocence. The alien woman turned her face away, hoping the child would leave. She didn't want to scare her. She didn't want to hear the same words that adults always threw: monster, exile, unwanted. But the little girl didn't run. Instead, she walked closer, her doll dragging on the ground. "You look cold," the girl whispered softly. Her voice was thin but full of kindness. The alien froze, not knowing how to answer. She hadn't heard words of kindness in years. The girl crouched down, tilting her head. "You need a home," she said. Her tone was simple, as if she was saying the most obvious thing in the world. The alien's chest tightened. She almost laughed at the words. A home? For her? No one had ever offered such a thing. She shook her head slowly, but the girl kept talking. "My father need a bride," the girl continued. Her innocent face looked serious now. "And I need a mom." The alien's eyes widened. She thought she had misheard. Her heart skipped a beat as her trembling hands gripped the torn blanket around her. Was this a cruel joke? Was this child mocking her? But the girl's eyes were honest. There was no mockery, only hope. Her little hands reached out as if inviting the alien to follow. The alien whispered, her voice cracking. Why are you saying this to me?" "Because you look lonely," the girl said simply, "and I'm lonely too." The alien felt her throat burn. Tears welled in her eyes, but she tried to hide them. She didn't understand this child. She didn't understand why anyone would say such words to her, but before she could reply, the girl stood and tugged her hand. "Come," the child said. "My father will understand." The alien froze. Her body told her to run, to escape before she was dragged into another cruel trick. But her heart longed to believe. For the first time in years, someone was not pushing her away but pulling her closer. She slowly stood up, her legs weak. Her mind screamed that this was dangerous, but her chest ached with something new: hope. As the little girl led her down the street, the alien looked up at the night sky. The stars were hidden behind dark clouds, but deep inside she wondered if maybe, just maybe, one star was still shining for her. The little girl's small hand pulled the alien woman forward. Step by step, they left the dark alley behind. The alien felt her heart pound with every step. Fear told her to turn back, but the warmth of the child's touch made her keep walking. Soon they reached the edge of the street where a quiet house stood. Its windows glowed softly with golden light. It was not a grand house, but compared to the cold streets, it looked like a palace. The girl smiled proudly and whispered, "This is my home." The alien stopped at the gate. Her body trembled. Her people had always told her humans were dangerous, cruel to outsiders, and she had seen their suspicious stares, their angry whispers. But this little girl spoke with trust, and the light from the home called to her heart. The door opened before the girl even knocked. A tall man stood there. His eyes were sharp but kind. His hands carried the weight of work. Scars and strength showed in his arms. He was not young, yet not old. "A widower who had seen many struggles, Lena," he said gently, addressing the girl. "Where have you been? I told you not to wander in the dark." His voice was firm, but filled with care. The girl hid behind the alien woman and pointed up at her. "Papa, she needs a home," she said quickly. Her words came out like a rush of wind. "She's cold and alone, and you need a bride, and I need a mom." The man's eyes narrowed. His gaze shifted from his daughter to the alien exile. For a long moment, silence filled the night. The alien lowered her head, ready for rejection, ready to be called monster again. Her body tensed, waiting for the door to slam in her face. But the man did not close the door. Instead, he looked carefully at her. His daughter's words echoed in his mind. He could see the shivering in the alien's frame, the scars of suffering on her skin, the desperation in her eyes. "You should come inside." "Duh," he said finally, his voice calm, steady, without anger. The alien's breath caught. She thought she had misheard. She stood frozen, unable to move. The girl tugged her hand again and pulled her inside. The warmth of the house wrapped around her instantly. A fire burned in the hearth, filling the air with a soft crackle. The smell of food lingered from the evening meal. The walls were simple, but they carried safety. The man gestured to the wooden chair by the fire. "Sit," he said. His tone was not commanding but gentle. The alien sat slowly, her hands clutching the edge of her torn blanket. She felt out of place, like a shadow in the middle of light. The girl rushed to the table and brought a small plate of bread. She placed it in the alien's hands with a bright smile. "Eat," she whispered. "It's good." The alien stared at the bread. Her throat tightened. She had not been offered food in so long. She took a small bite and warmth spread through her body. Her eyes watered, but she forced herself not to cry. The man sat across from her, watching silently. His daughter leaned against his arm, whispering, "She's the one, Papa. I know it." The alien looked up, her voice trembling. Why? Why are you letting me stay?" The man's eyes softened. He looked at his daughter, then at her. "Because my child trusts you," he said quietly, "and because no one deserves to freeze outside my door." The alien's heart shook. She bowed her head, hiding the tears she could no longer hold back. For the first time in years, she was inside a home, not as a servant, not as a prisoner, but as a guest. But deep inside, fear still whispered. Would the neighbors find out? Would they drag her away? Would this fragile warmth be stolen like everything else in her life? For now, she stayed silent, letting the fire warm her frozen body. Her hands trembled, but not from the cold anymore, from hope she was too afraid to believe in. The fire warmed the room, but the alien woman still felt cold inside. She sat at the wooden chair, her back straight, her hands holding the plate of bread as if it might disappear. Her eyes moved quickly between the little girl and her father, not sure if she was dreaming or living a moment too fragile to last. The man placed more food on the table, a bowl of stew that still steamed with heat. The smell made her stomach twist with hunger, yet she hesitated. Her life as an exile had taught her to never trust gifts. Food could be poisoned. Kindness could be a trap. She lowered her eyes, trying to fight the need burning in her body. The little girl noticed and pushed the bowl closer. "It's safe," she said softly. "Papa made it for me." She dipped her spoon into the stew, took a bite, and smiled. "See, it's good." The alien stared at her. Her heart tightened at the child's simple trust. Slowly, she lifted the spoon with trembling fingers and brought it to her lips. The warmth of the stew spread across her tongue, rich and full. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. For so long she had eaten scraps, dirty leftovers, sometimes nothing at all. Now she was eating a meal cooked with care, and it broke something inside her. The man watched quietly. His eyes studied the way her hands shook, the way her shoulders curved as if waiting for someone to strike her. He said nothing, but his silence was not cruel. It was steady, patient. He let her eat without questions. The little girl sat beside her, swinging her legs and smiling. "Do you like it?" she asked with wide eyes. The alien nodded slowly, unable to form words. Her throat was tight, her chest heavy. She whispered at last, It's the first time in years." The man's brow furrowed, but he did not press her to explain. He only reached across the table and poured her a cup of water. "Drink," he said quietly. She lifted the cup, her reflection rippling in the clear surface. When she drank, the coolness soothed her dry throat. She closed her eyes, letting the moment sink into her soul, but deep inside, a fear whispered again. Was this real? Or just another kindness that would vanish when the morning came? The little girl leaned closer, resting her head on the alien's arm. "You should stay," she murmured. "Papa won't let anyone hurt you." The alien froze at the touch. Her people never touched her with kindness, only chains, blows, and cold commands. The gentle weight of the child's head felt unreal. Her heart screamed to pull away, but instead, she let the child rest. The man finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "You are welcome here for tonight," he said. "But you must understand, this town is not kind to outsiders." The alien nodded, her eyes dropping. She knew that truth well. She had seen the looks, the whispers, the stones thrown at her feet. The man continued, "My daughter has a kind heart, sometimes too kind." His gaze hardened slightly. "But I will not turn away someone who needs shelter." The alien looked at him, her lips trembling. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why risk trouble for me?" The man leaned back in his chair, staring at the fire. "Because I know what it is to lose everything," he said. His words were heavy, filled with a pain he did not explain. Silence filled the room again, broken only by the crackling fire. The alien finished the last of her stew slowly, savoring every bite, as if it was the last she would ever have. When the bowl was empty, she placed it down carefully. Her hands still shook, not from hunger now, but from the strange weight of hope pressing on her chest. The little girl smiled up at her, her eyes bright with certainty. "You'll see," she whispered. "This is your home now." The alien wanted to believe. She wanted to reach far, or that fragile promise. But in her heart, she feared the world would never allow her such a gift. For tonight, though, she let herself sit in the warmth, fed, sheltered, and no longer alone. The morning light crept through the small house. The alien woman sat near the fire, still wrapped in the old blanket. Her body felt warmer, but her heart carried unease. She knew kindness was rare, and kindness was dangerous when others could see it. The little girl, full of energy, skipped around the room, holding her doll. She kept smiling at the alien, as if everything was already decided. "You are my mom now," she whispered happily. The words pierced the alien's chest like both a wound and a gift. She wanted to say no, to correct her, but the child's innocent eyes stopped her. Outside, voices began to stir in the street. Neighbors were waking, shopkeepers opening their stalls, and whispers spread quickly like smoke. A woman carrying water paused when she saw the stranger's shadow through the window. Her eyes narrowed and her lips pressed tight. By the time she reached the well, she was already telling another, "There's an alien in that house." By noon, half the town had heard. Some spoke with disgust. How can a human bring one of them inside? Others muttered with fear. What if she's dangerous? What if she brings trouble to us all? And some with pure hate. They don't belong here, send her back to the dirt where she came from. The man of the house, the widower, heard the voices when he stepped outside to chop wood. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He had lived in this town long enough to know how quickly suspicion could grow. He kept his focus on the axe, the heavy thud of wood breaking echoing in the yard. Inside, the alien woman felt the shift. Even without hearing the words, she knew. She had felt this many times before, the weight of eyes pressing on her, judging, accusing. She gripped the edge of her blanket, her body tense. "I should leave," she whispered. "They will hate you because of me." The little girl dropped her doll and ran to her sew. ID shaking her head. "No," she cried. "You are staying. You promised. You are my mom." The alien's heart broke at the sound. She had promised nothing, but the child believed every word. When the man returned, his daughter rushed to him. "Papa, they're saying things. They want her gone," she said with worry in her voice. The man placed his axe against the wall and rested his hand on her head. "Let them talk," he said calmly. "Their words are just wind. They do not decide what happens in my home." The alien stared at him in disbelief. "Why do you protect me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You know they will turn against you." He met her eyes without fear. "Because my daughter has chosen you," he said, "and because I see someone who has already suffered enough." The whispers outside grew louder in the following days. Neighbors stood in small groups pointing at the house. Some banged on the door at night, demanding answers. The alien stayed awake, clutching her blanket, her heart pounding. She feared it would only be a matter of time before anger became violence. Yet every morning, the little girl held her hand and smiled, as if nothing outside mattered. "Don't listen to them," she would say. "We are a family now." The alien wanted to believe, but the storm of voices beyond the walls promised a future filled with fire and pain. Still, for the first time, she was not facing it alone. The house was quiet that night. The fire had burned low, casting long shadows across the wooden walls. The alien woman sat near the window, her eyes fixed on the dark street outside. Every whisper she had heard in the past days echoed in her mind. Every glare, every hateful murmur. She knew what would come, and she could not allow the man or his daughter to suffer for her. The little girl slept peacefully on her bed, clutching her doll close. Her soft breathing was steady, gentle, like the rhythm of a safe world. The alien looked at her and felt her heart twist. She had never known such innocence, never known such pure trust. She stood quietly, wrapping the old blanket around her shoulders. Her hands trembled as she reached for the door. One step outside, and she could disappear again into the shadows. Alone, but at least the man and his daughter would be safe. Her fingers touched the handle, but a voice behind her froze her in place. "Don't go," the small whisper carried across the room. She turned, and there stood the little girl, awake, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, don't leave me." The alien's throat tightened. "I must," she whispered. "Your people will hurt you because of me. I can't stay. I can't bring danger to your home." The girl shook her head, her tears glimmering in the dim light. "No, you promised you'd stay. You're my mom now. If you leave, I'll have nothing." The alien staggered back as if struck. The word mom cut through every wall she had built. She wanted to deny it, to remind the child that she was nothing but an exile. But she saw the raw truth in the girl's eyes. She was the only one left who could fill that empty space. The man appeared in the doorway, his face stern but calm. He had heard their voices. He looked at the alien woman, then at his daughter. "If you leave now," he said firmly, "you will not just hurt her, you will hurt you. Ourself, too." The alien's lips trembled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They will come for me. They always come. Wherever I go, they find me. They call me a curse. They want me gone." The man stepped closer, his voice steady. "Then let them come," he said. "This house stands because I protect it, and if they try to tear it down, they will find me in their way." The alien stared at him, stunned by his words. No one had ever stood for her. No one had ever risked themselves to shield her. Her eyes filled with tears she could not stop. The girl rushed forward and hugged her tightly. "Please stay," she cried into her chest. "You are my mom. You are my family." The alien dropped to her knees, holding the child close. Her body shook with fear, but also with something stronger, something she had almost forgotten. "Hope," she whispered softly. "I will stay." That night she did not leave. Instead, she lay on the floor beside the child's bed, listening to her soft breathing. The man kept watch by the window, his eyes never leaving the shadows outside. The whispers of the town were growing, she knew. Soon they would turn into shouts, into fists, into fire. But in this moment, inside this house, she felt something she had not felt in years. For the first time, she was not facing the darkness alone. The night air was heavy. The alien woman sat near the fire, trying to calm her heart. The little girl slept soundly in her bed, and the man sat by the door with his old hunting knife resting on the table beside him. He knew trouble was coming. He could feel it in the silence of the town. For days the whispers had grown louder. The alien knew it was only a matter of time. She wrapped the blanket tighter around her shoulders and whispered, "I should never have stayed. This is my curse." The man glanced at her, his face calm but firm. "No curse," he said. "Only people too blind to see." Before she could answer, a sudden crash echoed outside, the sound of glass shattering. The little girl woke with a cry, clutching her doll to her chest. The man stood quickly, his hand on the knife. His eyes narrowed as shadows moved outside the window. Voices rose in the night, angry, sharp, full of hate. "Send her out," one shouted. "She does not belong here." Another cried, "We will burn the poison from this place." The alien froze, her whole body trembling. She had seen this before, in other places, in other nights. They would not stop until blood was spilled. She moved toward the door, her voice breaking. "I will go. Let them take me. Don't risk your lives for me." The little girl ran to her, wrapping her small arms around her waist. "No," she screamed. "You promised you'd stay. Don't leave me, Mom." Her tears wet the alien's torn clothes, and the woman's heart shattered. The man's voice cut through the fear, strong and steady. "You will not go anywhere," he said. "This is my home. No one decides who stays under my roof but me." He opened the door and stepped outside, the knife glinting in his hand. A group of men and women stood in the yard, their faces twisted with anger. Some held sticks, others carried stones, and one held a torch. The fire's light flickered against their hard eyes. "Step aside," one man shouted. "We want the alien. You know what she is. She will bring ruin to us all." The widower stood tall, his broad shoulders unshaken. "She is under my roof," he said, his voice calm but unyielding. "If you want her, you go through me first." The crowd muttered, surprised by his defiance. One of them hurled a stone. It struck the doorframe with a dull thud. The little girl screamed, clinging tighter to the alien woman. The alien's chest heaved. Her people had always told her humans were cruel, yet here was a man, a simple human, standing like a shield before her, risking everything. Her hands shook, her throat burned. For the first time in her life, someone was fighting for her. The man raised his knife slightly. "Go home," he warned, "or you will regret standing here tonight." The crowd hesitated, anger clashing with fear. They had expected the alien to be weak, unwanted, easy to drive out. They had not expected resistance. Finally, one spat on the ground and muttered, "This is not over." The mob slowly retreated into the shadows, their whispers promising they would return, stronger. The man closed the door and set the knife down. His chest rose and fell with deep breaths. The little girl ran to him and hugged his leg. "Papa, you saved us," she whispered. The alien woman stood frozen, her body trembling. She whispered softly, Why do you do this? For me?" He looked at her, his eyes steady. "Because no one deserves to face a mob alone," he said. "Not while I can still stand." Tears ran down her cheeks. She had been hated, hunted, abandoned. But tonight, she saw something new. A man who would not let her be taken. A child who called her mom. And a fragile light of hope, stronger than fear. But in her heart, she knew the fight had only begun. The night after the attack was heavy with silence. The alien woman sat by the dying fire, her hands pressed against her face. Her body still trembled from fear, but deeper than fear was shame. Shame that this human family had faced danger only because of her. The little girl slept close by, her small hand clutching the alien's blanket. Even in her dreams, she refused to let go. The man sat near the door, sharpening his knife with slow movements. His eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, calm but watchful. The alien could no longer hold the storm inside her. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You should know who I am." The man lifted his eyes, saying nothing, waiting for her words. "I was not always like this," she said. Her voice trembled, but the truth pushed through. "I was born in a noble house. My people once bowed when I passed. I had servants, riches, and guards to protect me. I had everything, and yet I lost it all." The man said nothing, but the scrape of his blade against the whetstone stopped. The alien felt his gaze pressing on her, steady, patient. She took a shaking breath. "I was betrayed, my own blood, my kin. They accused me of crimes I never committed. They called me cursed. They said my bloodline carried bad omens. They stripped me of my name, tore away my rights, and cast me out." Her voice broke as she lowered her head. "I was left to starve in the streets, hunted by those who once bowed to me." Her tears dripped onto the floor, shining in the firelight. "Everywhere I went, they followed with whispers. Hate followed me, hunger followed me. And when I came to this town, I thought it would be the same. Just another place where people spit at me and call me filth." She lifted her head slowly, her eyes meeting his. "But then your child called me mom." The man's expression did not change, but something softened in his gaze, his daughter stirred in her sleep, whispering a soft sound, as if her heart could feel the weight of the moment. The alien wiped her tears with trembling hands. "You must send me away," she said weakly. "You must, or the town will destroy you too. I cannot let you burn for my sins." The man leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Your sins are not yours. They were placed on you by cowards. I see no curse in you." His hand rested on the table, firm and sure. "I see someone who has carried more pain than anyone should. And still, you are standing. That is not weakness, that is strength." Her breath caught in her chest. No one had ever spoken of her like that. No one had ever seen her suffering as anything but shame. Her lips trembled. Why do you believe me?" The man's eyes shifted to his daughter, sleeping peacefully. "Because she believes in you," he said. and because I trust her heart more than the words of a whole town." The alien pressed a hand over her mouth, choking on her sobs. The weight of years of rejection cracked under the warmth of his words. She bent forward, trembling, unable to speak. The little girl woke and sat up, rubbing her eyes. She looked between them and smiled sleepily. "Don't cry, Mom," she whispered, crawling into the alien's arms, her small body pressed close, warm and trusting. "We are a family now." The alien clutched her tightly, burying her face in the child's hair. For the first time in years, she did not feel like an exile. She felt like a mother. She felt like someone who belonged. The man leaned back, the faintest shadow of a smile touching his lips. Outside, the whispers of the town grew louder each day, but inside the house, the truth was revealed. The exile was not cursed. She was loved. Days passed, but the whispers of the town only grew stronger. What began as murmurs became open anger. Small stones were thrown at the house during the day, and cruel words were carved into the wooden fence at night. The alien woman felt the weight of it all. Each sound outside made her heart tremble. Each look from the neighbors told her she did not belong. The little girl stayed close to her side, never letting her slip away. She called her mom in front of everyone, with a fearless smile. The word gave the alien woman hope, but it also filled her with dread. What if the town punished the child too? One evening, a heavy knock shook the door. The man stood from his chair, his jaw tight. He opened it slowly, and outside stood 3 of the town's leaders, their clothes neat, their faces cold. Behind them, a crowd waited, torches flickering in their hands. The tallest leader stepped forward, his voice sharp. "We've tolerated this long enough," he said. "The alien must leave, tonight." The alien woman stepped back into the shadows, her heart pounding. She knew this moment would come. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. The little girl rushed to the door and clung to her father's leg. "No," she cried. "She's my mom. You can't take her away." The leader's eyes hardened. "This is not about the child's wishes. This is about the safety of us all. If you keep her here, we will no longer stand with you. You will lose our trade, our help, our protection. Think carefully, man. You must choose your town or the alien." The words cut through the air like a blade. The alien gasped, her eyes filling with tears. She turned toward the man, whispering, "Send me away, please. You cannot risk your life, or hers, for me." The little girl shook her head wildly. "No, she belongs with us." Her small voice carried louder than the crowd's murmurs. The man stood silent for a long moment. His eyes shifted from the leaders to the mob, then to his daughter clinging to his leg, and finally to the alien woman trembling in the firelight. His chest rose with a deep breath, and then his voice came steady and strong. "I have made my choice," he said. His voice carried through the night, calm yet unshakable. "She stays. This is my home, my family. No mob will decide who belongs here." The crowd gasped. The leaders exchanged furious glances. "You are choosing her over your own people?" one demanded. "I am choosing what is right," he answered firmly. "And if that means standing against the whole town, then so be it." The alien woman's knees gave out. She fell to the floor, tears running down her cheeks. Never in her life had someone chosen her. Never had anyone risked everything for her. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Why? Why would you do this?" The man looked at her with quiet strength. "Because you are not a curse," he said. "You are not a burden. You are part of this family now." The little girl threw her arms around the alien, hugging her tightly. "See, Mom? Papa chose you. He'll always choose you." The leaders' faces darkened. "This will not end well for you," they warned. Then they turned and left, the crowd following, their angry whispers trailing into the night. The door closed, silence falling heavy in the house. The alien woman clutched the child close, her tears soaking the girl's hair. She whispered through sobs, no one has ever chosen me before." The man placed his hand on her shoulder, firm and steady. "Get used to it," he said softly, "because I will choose you again and again." For the first time, the exile believed she had a place, but deep inside she also knew choosing her had lit a fire that the town would not let burn quietly. The night was still, too still. The alien woman could not sleep. Every whisper from the street sounded like footsteps. Every creak of the wood felt like a warning. She held the little girl close, afraid that the peace inside the house was only a fragile dream waiting to be broken. The man sat by the door, his knife resting on the table beside him. His eyes were fixed on the window, his jaw was tight, as if he had already accepted that something was coming, and it came. First there was shouting in the distance, then the sound of boots against the dirt road, then light, orange flames flickering outside, torches. The alien's chest tightened. She had seen this before. She had smelled fire and heard mobs screaming her name. Always it ended with blood. The little girl woke, clutching her doll. "Papa?" she whispered, her voice shaking. The man stood, pulling her close. "Stay behind me," he said, calm but firm. The door rattled with a heavy strike. Then another, angry voices rose. "Send her out. She is a curse. We'll burn her out if you won't hand her over." The alien fell to her knees, her body trembling. "I should go," she whispered. "If I leave, they will stop. Please, let me end this." The man turned sharply, his voice hard. "No, they will not take you, not while I stand here." The little girl ran to the alien and hugged her tightly. "Don't go, Mom. Please don't go." Tears streamed down her face, her small body shaking. The pounding on the door grew louder. Then suddenly, fire roared. Flames licked the side of the house. The mob had set it alight. The crackle of burning wood filled the night. Smoke began to creep through the windows. The alien gasped, terror flooding her veins. This was the nightmare she had lived again and again, always running, always losing. Her eyes darted to the girl, to the man, and she knew she could not run this time. If she ran, she would lose them. The man grabbed a bucket of water and threw it against the wall where fire was spreading. He turned to her, his voice steady. "Help me. We fight this together." Her body shook, but she moved. She grabbed another bucket, her arms weak but her will stronger than it had ever been. They worked side by side, throwing water, blocking flames, while the girl carried smaller pails with trembling hands. The mob outside shouted louder, throwing stones at the windows. The alien felt rage boiling in her chest. Rage not at herself this time, but at them, for daring to threaten the only people who had ever shown her kindness. She stood at the window and shouted, her voice fierce, "I am not a curse!" The crowd fell silent for a moment, shocked by her defiance. Her eyes burned with tears and firelight. "I will not leave, I will not run. If you want to burn me, then you will see me fight first." The man moved to her side, knife in hand. His voice was low but filled with power. "And you will face me too, because she is mine to protect." The little girl stood between them, her small hands clutching her doll, her face lit by firelight. "And she is my mom," she cried, her voice pure and brave. Something shifted in the crowd. Their anger wavered. Some lowered their torches, others stepped back. The sight of a child calling the alien mother broke through their hate. The fire hissed as the last of the water smothered it. Smoke curled into the sky. The house stood, scarred but unbroken. The mob began to scatter, muttering, ashamed, defeated. Inside, the alien collapsed to the floor, her chest heaving, her hands shook, not from fear but from the battle she had just fought. The man placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You are stronger than you believe," he said softly. The little girl wrapped her arms around her, whispering through tears, "We won, Mom. We won." The alien held her close, her heart pounding. For the first time in her life, she had not run. For the first time, she had stood and fought, and she had something worth fighting for.